Hello, Billy Reeves here, and welcome to the latest Kscope podcast, the summer special. I trust you're well. Coming up, Giancarlo Erra from Nosound. Their brand new mini album, To the Core, is just out, so I popped over to Burning Shed to ask him why he's kept the music neat and tidy and organic this time, about the intense experiences which inspired the lyrics, and which celestial body he plans for Nosound to be the first to play upon. But first, to South East London, to the roof of the rehearsal space used by, among others, Gong, as they rehearse for the latest UK dates and for their next US tour, where I spoke to Sturt and Kavus Torabi about all the work that's gone into the brand new 10th anniversary issue of I See You, their last album, of course, with Daevid Allen. We speak of Dave's first memory of meeting Kavus and the first riff. We obviously speak about Daevid Allen's illness and memories of the gestation of this album and the one after it, and of course all the things that Kavus does, including making snookerist Steve Davis a rock and roll star, and therefore of course I had to probe him about who else from UK sport would make a great rock and roll star. But first, Kavus, who of course I referred to by his first Gong name. Joining me, Spiral K Octaflash.
Oh yeah.
How did that come about?
Well, David wanted to give me a Gong name. I think he gave me two options. There was he gave me two options. Octaflash was in there. I think it was something Z Octaflash, but I added Spiral because, and I'm saying this for the first time, this is coming out, not that this is going to be internet breaking news in any way. I had a brief side hustle of writing and performing songs to teach German children how to speak English.
Obviously.
And the side hustle of writing these songs, I put my name, my professional name, I thought I'd give myself was Pip Spiral. So as a nod to that, I took the Spiral from Pip Spiral, took the K of Kavus, and David added the Octaflash. He'd given me a number of names, and he said choose one. And so that became a sort of hybrid, Spiral K Octaflash.
It's kind of nice to be able to choose your own nom de guerre.
Yeah, choose my own nom de guerre. Yeah. Well, you know.
I mean, I think I was a couple of weeks younger than I am now before I realised that, of course, it's ICU. And, of course, having spent quite a lot of time myself in ICU, I really should have sussed that out.
Although, that said, I think he'd had the idea for ICU before he was in ICU.
Before he was poorly. You've got to say these things out loud. So, memories of writing it.
Yeah, that was an interesting time. Yeah, because we just formed the band. Really, that version of the band just kind of come together with Orlando, and especially on drums. And Fabio. That was Fabio's first album as well. Yeah. So what inspired it? I don't know really. David asked if we had any ideas, so we all contributed.
Right. Yeah.
Stuff that we had around us that we thought might be suitable. The first sessions were in Mosh, a studio in Sao Paulo. We did some recording there, and we spent half of the time just improvising. There was a lot of just bass and drums, just playing.
Did the environs inspire it at all?
That was a beautiful studio.
It's one crappy rehearsal room.
This was a beautiful old style studio. Okay. So it was a really, really fabulous place. There's some film of us recording there. Actually, you can see how lovely it was.
It's nice that you put that. That dovetails nicely because it's nice that you put that it was a kind of beginning rather than an end 10 years ago. What's everybody's relationship like with it now? I'll start with you. Have you listened to it recently? What's your relationship with it now? 10 years on.
This version of it is has found aspects of it that I'd totally forgotten. Really, I think that the original mix was problematic just because of the situation, with David's illness and and the time and the distance, because Orlando was was mixing it in Australia, and
like you do.
And Fabio's in Brazil and the rest of us in England, so it was a challenge. But a lot of the writing kind of was sort of remote as well. I remember ICU, the track, that was based on just a bass and drum jam for about 15 minutes or something, and I was astonished when I heard what he'd done to it. It was like so not what I was expecting.
I see ya. I missed you. Hey, listen. What? Let's go there. I'm crazy, lazy, God, I'm an old man. Not cool. You coming to check out the band? You're just crazy like me. And so I'm thinking, let's go drinking. I'll see you in your dreams. In your dreams.
I love that track I See You because it just has that sort of freewheeling old style gong, almost like Camembert sort of gong vibe to it. But yeah, I mean my relationship with the album has changed drastically, and since this new version has come out, I was so I had to hold my tongue about it. Really, it was just so generally, I don't want to say unhappy with the original, but it was it just felt like such a compromise, the original one. It was not the album I thought it could have been.
Okay.
And so, I've never really felt like it was an album that I would have, that I was really proud of before. But now that we have this new mix, and there were a few errors that needed correcting, and they've been corrected now, and I think it sounds great. It's really exciting to hear it. It's like, oh, there it is. That's the album we were trying to make,
Right.
for me anyway, yeah.
Is that how you feel about it?
I do, yes. I think it's a vast improvement on where it was. And as for favourite tracks, I think God and Devil is probably my favourite, just because of the way, because that was, obviously Kavus will tell you about the story about how that came together probably, but it was the first time we'd met Kavus. That was the day we met him. That day he was playing that riff, and we created that track. And I was really, really happy with the bass line on that track. And
They totally threw you in at the deep end.
Yeah. No, I knew David. I didn't know Dave.
You hadn't met these Herberts?
No. Well, do you know what I had, but they don't remember.
I met Steve at the premises rehearsal studios. I didn't meet you that day.
Steve who?
Davis.
Yeah.
I met
for
him.
them, I mean, not for me. They might think you mean Steve Hillage.
Oh, sorry, you're right. Yeah.
They're very much two sides of the same coin, and yet they're very similar, aren't they? Very similar. We were talking about Steve.
I met Steve Davis that day, and Carvers was with him, but for some reason I didn't meet Carvers. It's just very strange.
What was your first? What was your first opinion of them when you're being forced to pick up a guitar and play a riff in front of them?
No. I mean, I don't have a, because I mean, for me, honestly, and I was in Cardiacs, and Cardiacs was my favourite ever band, and so really after that, it's no biggie. Honestly, it was. It's like I joined my favourite band, and so really it was no, but I mean, it was kind of, I knew Daevid Allen, we knew each other. And I had met Dave and Ian because I'd come to see you at Shepherd's Bush, but I don't think you remember. I was hanging out with David.
Oh, backstage.
Yeah. I came to see you at Shepherd's Bush when you played there.
No, I don't remember that.
And then we went out for a night. I can't remember who was. I remember Orlando was there, and maybe Fabio was there. But we had this night out in Dalston.
Yeah, I didn't.
It was David, and we went to, and that was kind of interesting because it ties in with this area, Deptford, because we went to see Charles Hayward, and Yoshida Tatsuya was playing with. He was doing a band called Kurikyojin.
Right.
Now, Yoshida had played with Gong, and of course Charles Hayward had played with Gong when he was 16 years old.
Crikey.
And I knew Charles. Charles was a friend of mine, and Charles and David hadn't seen each other since back then. And so I sort of facilitated this re-meeting of David and Charles Hayward, as well as Yoshida and David as well. So that was a very, very fun night. And Charles and Yoshida were amazing, you know.
So tell us about when God shakes hands with Devil then.
Oh, well, it was just that. And forgive anyone listening who's heard this tale before. You know, you don't think these anecdotes are going to start to come sort of key. But you know, I'd been loved Gong since I was a teenager, and had lots of Gong-esque riffs, which I had to sort of think, oh, that's a bit too gongy. I can't use that, you know. And when I got there early, which is my way, to this studio just down the road in New Cross. So I was there early, and I just got into the room on my own, set up my guitar, and just came up with this riff, you know. So I started playing it, and at some point when I was perfecting or getting this riff together, you know, in walked David and Dave. I think you picked him up, hadn't you? I think you'd probably picked David up. Yeah. So they walked in, and I was just there playing this riff, and David started dancing around and scatting to it. Wow. And he said, hey, great riff, man. Got any more? I said, yeah, fucking loads, you know. And there it began. And then, you know, but these guys were going off to Brazil. Right. And I wasn't. But I was already in the band, but I wasn't going to Brazil with them. So, you know. And was that when you recorded in Brazil? Was that when you started making
when we
records?
did those sessions, yeah.
So they went to Brazil and had those sessions, but I was in the band back home. Yeah. And that became that tune, you know.
Yeah, what are your memories of that then? Do you remember
that day?
This Herbert turning up and playing that riff?
Well, yeah, I do, yeah. And I'd never heard a guitarist like him. It was so... And I wasn't sure whether I liked it at first. What is this? It's like, because I just couldn't... It was beyond my comprehension at that point, and it was just like, you know, Kavus has a way with intervals that are rather unusual, and I really wasn't... I didn't know. I'd never heard anything like it. So it took me a while to kind of... But then this riff was going around for the next 3 or 4 hours, so by then I was beginning to assimilate it.
Right, okay.
And yeah, it was good. No, then I kind of really got it, and it was a fantastic way, I think, to start our musical collaboration.
That cat smiles, the contract signed, he can be proud. The judge agrees his private army will be used to stop the crowd. There's a peaceful protest gathering the faithful in public square. They'll get beaten, battered and abused, 'cause they see God everywhere. And stop singing in the middle of the day when God and the devil shake hands. Him a kickback to bust this guy who's a rival in some deal. Big boy, he got more to
Yeah, a lot of things did happen after that came out.
Yeah, well, a year after that.
COVID happened.
We toured again in Brazil, and you were with
David
us
Bowie
then.
died. That happened after that. Prince died. That was after that as well, wasn't it?
There was a lot going on around that time.
I suppose that's right. Yeah.
I think. So, with Gong, you mean? Sorry,
Well,
I
I did mean everything.
Oh yeah.
I did mean everything because it was a chaotic time, but there was also a lot going on with David.
Yeah, yes. So I mean, David became. Well, so I had my first shows with Gong were probably my timeline's all screwy, but I think it was the following year. Yeah, the following year I came up to Brazil. I got Dave and Ian flew out from the UK, and then David and Orlando flew out from Australia. They came about half a day later than us or something, or a day later, and then Fabio already lived there. And the idea was we were going to, the idea was we rehearsed for a few days and then we did some shows. So my first ever Gong gig was playing in front of 5,000 people at this festival called Psychedalia, which was it's trial by fire, but it was great. So I started having rehearsals, and I think I announced my presence quite well by coming straight in and telling David and the rest of the band that they were playing one of the songs wrong. Say, no, you're playing this wrong. We were doing.
In what sense were they playing?
Well, they were playing. There's a key riff in Oh Mother, which is in like 7/8, and they were playing it in 4/4. And it's like, well, what are you doing? And then David sort of backpedaled and go, oh well, no, I just thought I'd make it easier for Orlando. And he's like, well, it doesn't go like this. David's riff. It's like, well, I'm not playing this in 4/4. Like it doesn't go like that.
Yeah.
So I think this is an interesting story, but I've got a recording of me at the Premises rehearsal studios of me and David, and he's playing the riff really slowly. This is the first time we were getting into it, and he is. I think he's doing it in the right time at that point. Yeah. So maybe later on it got changed, but I did learn it in.
No, I think it was
there must have been another reason to change it.
So I dug my heels in early on.
That is amazing.
Dug my heels early on, and it's like, okay, it's like we've got to do this right. But I think that sort of, went over okay. But it was really fun, doing those rehearsals.
Yeah.
And we're rehearsing in the same place as Sepultura. So that was cool.
Right. Yeah, of course. Yeah, quite famous group in that particular area. Yeah.
So we had these gigs. We were doing these gigs. We had the big festival. Played one. So we had about 4 or 5. Five. In Brazil.
The fifth one was supposed to be in Chile, but then the promoter in Chile just
got cold
failed.
feet.
Magma had already been out, and they said, "Look, this guy ripped us off." So we left. We left Brazil. Those guys, David and Orlando, went back to Australia. We went back to the UK, and we left. Big hugs and everything. And we left saying, "Well, now we're going to go and now to finish the album, to mix the album," and and off we went. And as we were, and in that process of while that was going on, and again, I can't remember the exact timeline, but what happened was that David had, correct me if I got this wrong, David had slipped over on his front porch and broken his collarbone or broken his arm or something, his shoulder. Yeah. And he said, well, man, and we had lots of gigs booked. We had like 40 odd gigs booked. And he said, well, man, I got you in to play guitar. I'll just play Gliss. I won't be able to play guitar, but I'll just play Gliss, which was the plan anyway. I think the idea was, I think he wanted me and Fabio to be the guitar players. He'll do a bit of Gliss and be able to be a singer, you know. So that was all cool. And then I think while he was in there getting treatment for that, they found this cancer. I mean, he already had skin cancer, but that was under control.
Yeah, he'd been living with that.
He'd been living with it. I think that's an Australian thing.
And he said, I don't want any treatment.
No, not initially. He had treatment. Initially, he was getting treatment. And the guy was so, the guy had such an energy and was so strong. I mean, given that he would have been living with the cancer at the time, we were playing these shows with him, and he's not only is he carrying his big old Fender Twin, carrying his big old Fender Twin, but he's doing 3 costume changes during the shows, you know, and then packing up all his gear afterwards. So he was
we were sharing an apartment, and he was getting up before everybody else and doing half an hour of yoga and exercise.
Yeah. Because I was sleeping in the front room, and he was coming. Yeah, and we'd be out drinking till 3, 4 in the morning, and then he'd be up at 7 doing his yoga. You know.
Wow.
So it just seemed like, oh well, I know what happens. This dude, this guy beats the canter, and off we go.
Yeah.
And of course, you know, it didn't. But what happened is at the end, I think it at one point it was looking like it was receding. It's hard to. I don't like to remember these things, and my brain's very good at forgetting things.
Don't let me traumatise you.
No, not at all. I mean, my little brother will often, or used to often, remind me traumatic incidences from my childhood, and I go, I just don't remember that. So I'm quite good at just like.
It's good for you.
Yeah, but I think it was receding, and it was all okay. This is going to be good, and then it just came back really aggressively. And I think David had just said, "I'm a believer." I can't remember the exact words, but something along the lines of, "I'm a believer of what will be, will be."
Yeah.
And he embraced it.
it. And what's beautiful,
it became part of him.
I will say this is that given that this is someone with a very strong metaphysical and spiritual bent, who has always so much of his music and lyrics and poetry is about death.
Yeah.
I think it would have undermined the entire. Everything about Daevid Allen, if he'd have gone into this like terrified and frightened, but he didn't. He embraced it with open arms, and there's this beautiful footage on YouTube of him about a week before he actually died. His hair's all short because of the treatment, and he's reciting some poetry with his sparkly eyes and his big smile, and he's just all that energy is there.
Yeah.
And he died in the way that he believed, and he and rightly, he believed it's just merely a transition,
Yeah.
and he died in that way as well. It didn't. So it was really sad, but of course, he died beautifully. And what was really nice is that he did get to see video and hear recordings of this version of the band with Cheb on drums. Because, as we know, we had to. He wanted us to carry on to promote the album. There's only a few gigs left. I mean, I think 40 got reduced to about 11. But we had to do it, which is then what assembled this version of the band, because Orlando couldn't come over. It was too much to come over from Australia, especially while his dad was dying. So we got Cheb in. I knew him. I played with him before. He like Deptford in my band Knife World. I just thought, this guy's amazing. And so as soon as, when Dave and Ian had said, well, do you know anyone? I was like, yeah, I know a guy, he's brilliant. So we had these rehearsals, and they were really sounding good. I mean, that was the sort of genesis of, what became this version of Gong. David heard it, and David's like, this is it, you are Gong. You've got to carry this on.
Wow.
So I'm really glad he got to hear Cheb. I mean, it's a real shame he didn't get to meet him, and it's a real shame he didn't get to play with him. But I'm so glad he got to hear him play and got to give it the thumbs up.
Well, in a way, Cheb is playing with him.
Yeah.
You and I discussed this before about the band carrying on, because it's nice to have you here, David, to ask the same question. Really, I've got to ask the same question. Is that Gong are a lot of people's favourite group. There are those sort of groups, I'm thinking the Stranglers, there are those sort of groups for whom they are the number one group, and Cardiacs.
Yeah, Cardiacs is one,
the Pond, those that wear the daisy. What's the unique pressures of carrying on a group for whom they are many people's favourite group?
Well, I mean,
I think, thankfully,
heavy.
We don't think about that.
All right, okay, good. Sorry to bring it up.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I mean, and I can imagine in some situations that would be a very, very difficult thing to do.
You
with
might
it.
not.
No, but I know you have had your struggles.
Yeah,
and
I can imagine.
Because the two of us spent a lot of time on the phone when when Kavus was in the very early days having extreme doubts, and I was trying to persuade him that this, for whatever, it would be an interesting journey. Let's just see where it can take it.
Where has it gone? Where has the journey taken you in the time since, would you say, as a unit?
It's I mean, the proof isn't in the records, and the journeys in the records we've made, and in the shows we're doing.
Because there's been quite a few. There's been quite a few of both of those. It hasn't been some sort of massive long gap.
Oh God,
There's been this cycle.
That's right.
Yeah,
cycle.
Yep. We're at a point now. I didn't really. I remember. Well, Fabio brought it up a few years ago, probably about like 2018 or something. And Fabio brought up, won't it be funny one day if we're just all playing all our own material? We're not doing any old Gong.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what we're doing. We're doing, I'd say, 4 minutes. The set that we've just been playing now,
Rehearsing here,
which we're going to be taking out to the west coast of the US. I'd say 4 minutes of it is old Gong, which is Master Builder.
But that's proper Gong, isn't it?
And that happened. It happened in it's an overused word, organic, but it happened it happened in an organic way, and we've just come back from we're doing the same set that we were just playing in the East Coast in September, and we did East Coast in September, and then a month there, and then 5 weeks in Europe afterwards. And no one, and we always go come out and hang out at the merch stand, because it's really good to get some feedback and also just to meet everyone and all that sort of thing. And no one said, "No, we should have more old stuff." No one said it. And it's a funny line to cross, because it's like, okay, we're doing it now. It's like taking off the stabilizers.
But it's a decade. Taking off the stabilizers.
It's like taking off the stabilizers off the pipe.
Yeah.
Because it's. But we can. The thing is now that the set, we're now thinking in terms of a set rather than individual songs, because these are songs that we've all written, with the exception of Master Builder, which we can't not do, but because these are songs that we've all written, we sort of own these songs, and we can be 100% sincere about them. Otherwise, we are just imagining, I don't know. You are a covers band. No matter, even though David put us together, if it's us playing, whatever it is we're doing, Mr. Longshanks or even Never Glid before, it is just us, the musicians that David put together, playing a song that those guys wrote in the 70s.
Yeah.
And they'll remember what the working title of that song is, and they'll remember what the alternative lyrics were, and they'll remember what the sections of that song that they cut out were, and they'll remember what bits took ages to get together. We don't.
Yeah. And also, they would have been very different sounding then to you playing it now as well. I'm thinking, a lot's happened to you since I first saw the Monsoon Bassoon in Stoke Newington, and it blew my mind, and a Knife World. So how do you get your headspace into? Because I messaged you saying, "Hey man, can we chat before you go to America?"
Yeah.
And you said, "I'm in the Utopia Strong at the moment. Can we pick this up next week?"
Because then I'm in Gong. I'm Kavus out of Gong next week.
Yeah. So how do you get yourself into those different headspaces? How different are they? How similar are they?
Well, the way of operating is different, and the way of doing things is different. But it's just, I mean, in terms of getting into the headspaces, once we're together, the five of us in Gong, then we're Gong, and that's how we are. We're Gong, and we're thinking about things in a Gong way. And then I'm not, then I'm just replying to Utopia Strong text with like thumbs up and stuff. I'm not engaging, although, so it's just
polite.
that. Yeah. But no, you do that because I don't want to be in a Gong rehearsal going off and having to do Utopia Strong stuff, and vice versa,
We've discussed this before, and we must ask you again, firstly. You've been in Cardiacs, you've been in Gong. Which non-classic lineup band are you going to be in next?
Dave knows, Iron Maiden.
It's
got to be Iron Maiden.
It's got to be Iron Maiden. You can take the boy out of Plymouth. Yeah. Finally, from me, which other sports person would make a great prog rock synthesizer player? Would you say? A sports person, any sport.
Is a pastime that you have to wear a suit? Can that be a sport?
Yeah, I think a sport is. Steve might agree with me on this. A sport is an activity for which you have to change your shoes.
Okay. Is that rock is a sport? Oh no. Oh God, this has thrown me. I'm not a sports guy.
That's the trouble with that question.
I'm not a sports guy.
Yeah, me neither.
You need to have a look. I think you need to have a look at
I've heard Andy Murray's looking for a job.
The most famous person in my phone is the manager of the Premier League football team that I cover for work, Thomas Frank.
Yeah.
Because he very much looks the part.
Does he?
As far as Premier League managers are concerned, Thomas Frank really looks as though he could pick up a 5-string bass. Just see what you think. And thus it was agreed that Thomas Frank is the most likely person from the world of British sport that could be in a prog rock band. My huge thanks to Daevid and Kavus for taking time out from rehearsals to speak to me. So from the brand new 10th anniversary remixed remastered ICU, this is Pixelation.
Hey, you people of the planet and the people you know yourself. We are pixies of the green world, gnome and the gremlins and the elf. We live deep in the forest with the birch and the elm and the oak. We are utterly invisible, but what we really love is a joke. Think of it, think of it, think about it a bit. Think of it, think of it, think about it a bit. Think of it, think of it, think of it, think about it a bit. It's a video, think it's a video, you can give it a shit yet. We watch some of you and wonder whether you're really as silly as you look. You fumble and you stumble and you fumble like a beetle with your nose in the big flat book. You sit under a tree cause you want to write a song, but the lines are leaves of the trees. Tickle and you jive and you struggle and you struggle as you giggle as we bubble at your knees. Well, now that you're here and now that you're listening, we're gonna have to tell you what you've done. You fucked up the solar and you fucked up the forest and you fucked up the world for everyone. You don't seem to know that the earth is your body and the ocean's a part of your brain. We don't understand why you want to kill each other if you haven't gone insane. Think about it and think about it, think of it, think of it, think about it, do something about it, think about it some more and think of it, think of it, think of it, think of it, think about it, do something about it, think of it, think of it, think of it, think of it, think about it again then. Everybody knows what you think about can happen if you think about it most of the time. We all want a planet that's a proper place to live, not the victim of an horrible crime. You don't understand that a river's not a gutter, the river is the blood to the brain. Poison in the soil is poison in your body, and we're dying of the acid in the rain. So we're coming back like human beings, so we look quite a bit like you. We'll dance and sing and make you grin, then you'll know who we are when we do. You don't even know that the earth is your body and the ocean's a part of your brain. We don't understand why you want to kill each other if you haven't gone insane. So we're coming back like human beings, so we look quite a bit like you. We'll dance and sing and make you grin, then you'll know who we are when we do. You can do it, you can do it, you can do it, you know you can do it, you can do it, you know you can do it, when you get together. Think about it, think about it, think about it, bitch, you get it. What the hell is the point of this if you don't give a shit?
Hey!
Gong with Pixelation. I See You, the 10th anniversary remaster remix is out right now. From Deptford in southeast London, then much further east to Norwich, and the HQ of Burning Shed, where I sat down with my dear old friend Giancarlo Erra of Nosound. Their mini album To The Core is out right now, and I wanted to get straight down to brass tacks and ask Giancarlo about the mood and about the lyrics of said record. It's a confident record. You're laying yourself bare. You're really going for it with the vocals. Would that be fair? Is it a confident record? Is it a brutal? It's almost naked in its emotion.
Yeah. I can see it. This is why it is called To The Core. I think that I think it's a process for Nosound, or it has been a process in a way. You know, over the years we went from the very produced to just trying to, you know, shorten the songs, getting like rid of the elements that are not needed, you know, shortening guitar solos from 3 minutes to just the essential part of it in a way. People have less time, you know, you listen to, I think more often to tracks more than albums.
Yeah.
I mean, there is still obviously lots of people that listen, but I mean, just say generally speaking.
Yeah.
So,
so perhaps it's a little bit of a modern album then, with you subverting the cliches of what you've done before and saying, okay, I'm just going to take the nub of everything.
Yeah. I mean, as people know, it's like when we released before this, we released the cover of Pink Floyd, and you know we got all the possible negative win ever. But I knew that.
I get very brave. Come on, come at me.
Yeah, no, exactly. I don't care because, you know, I think that, you know, actually, if they were writing it today, as I wrote, probably, you know, if David Gilmour was writing it today, he would do it like this without all the 8 minutes of instrumental in there.
Yeah.
It's quite hard to release 10 songs and then hoping that people will maybe pay enough attention to each of them.
Interesting, yeah.
So I just thought, but I still love the album more than the single. Yeah. And so I thought, I want to start, let's experiment. Let's see, what if we start releasing, for example, mini albums? It's a midway. It's a midway between a full album.
A short album.
Or a short album, whatever it is. You know, it's around 20 minutes. It's 5, 6 songs, whatever it is. There is time enough to just concentrate on each of the songs. There is still a concept, there is still a package. And it was a bit of more of an experiment, to be honest.
That's subverting the cliche then, isn't it? Is taking care, but in smaller chunks. Making a fancy sandwich rather than spending an hour doing a terrible bolognese.
Yeah, potentially. Yeah, exactly. And I don't know. I also think, you know, an album is a long work every single time, and sometimes you risk losing the freshness. And I love it. You know, there is the sense of urgency. You don't have much time to then, you know, there's a whole thing and stuff.
Ironically, that's quite old-fashioned, isn't it? Because if you were against the clock, if some venture capitalist was paying for your time in the studio, but you would have to finish it.
Yeah.
So and
I think today you can lose it. You know, you can make albums that are 90 minutes, so you can do double albums. It is a long process in the studio. And personally speaking, because I like feelings in songs, they risk to become stale, old. You just refine them too much. Well, I think in this, probably part of it is that sense of urgency. Of these 5 songs, they are absolutely perfect together. And we want to release this as a mini album. I suppose you end up not wanting to hide anymore, in a way. So vocals are a bit up front.
Yeah.
They are raw, as in, you know, that is me.
Emotionally as well.
Yes.
They're really, but are you all right? I mean, you know, listening to this record, I thought, is it a catharsis for what emotions you were feeling at the time? You're exposing yourself a lot on this record.
The more deep, if you want, the record is, the better I am, because it is, you know, it is a catharsis for me. You know, the records has always been the way for me to just go through things. I don't go to the gym punching things, so there must be.
That's beautifully put. But I mean, a lot of people going through the situations that you're obviously going through on the record, a lot of people would hide that behind simile and analogy and imagery, but you're going straight for the absolute pure emotion and laying yourself very bare.
Yeah, I don't know if it is maturity or just evolution, basically.
Or confidence, perhaps.
Or confidence, I mean, I'm perfectly fine. I mean, obviously, you know, I went through, like everyone, you know, you go through ends of relationships, and then even before the last solo album, my father passed, and, you know, that was a whole complicated thing that, you know, was like a kind of a difficult relationship, if you want. So, you know, there is a whole life in it. You know, it wasn't just about, you know, your parents passing away. There is just a reconciliation. You know, actually, some of my albums previously were containing hints of how this very complicated relationship just basically molded me in who I am today. And then, you know, after 40 years, basically, of really conflictual and problematic and quite complicated relationship, then, you know, all of a sudden, obviously, you know, terminal illness arrives, and you know, there is distance. You're just forced, really, you know, into get not anymore into who is right or who is wrong. You know what I mean? It's quite normal.
You can hear that in the lyrics as well. I think perhaps you're trying to simplify the complicated emotions then down to the absolute bare essential. Bare in both senses of the word.
It was a very big, humbling lesson, I suppose, from life, about how we stand with conflict, and, you know, what is worth and what is not. And it's not just, you know, life is short, all the sorts of. It's just really about how we manage our own emotions. And I don't know. There was a lot, as I said, it was very intense period of my life that really changed not just how I saw back the 40 years previously and what they meant and what could have been different. Probably not much, but, you know, what I would do now differently.
Are you the same man that I used to fear? Can you tell me now what I long to hear? What did you say? Why did you leave me that way? I loved you so much. I just never chose the right way. What did you say? Why does it hurt me this way? I feel it to the core. I just never know what to say. Can you feel the blind guilt that I used to feel? Can you see with your eyes what I yearn to see? What did you say? Why did you leave me that way? I loved you so much. I just never chose the right way. What
When I listened to it the first time, I thought this is an album about someone trying to be a better man, or trying to be the better man.
Yeah, definitely.
Are you a better man as a result of doing this record? Fucking hell, what a question. What a question.
I don't know.
It's okay, because I
suppose
think I did. It would be, if I'd have done that as the first question, it would have been a bit blunt. Giancarlo, are you a better man as a result of recording this record?
I don't know. I don't think it's up to me to say. It definitely feels like, I suppose, that is what I can say. And but you know, it has all been a progress. You know, I mean, the album is probably the result of all the, as I said, of all the studies I'm doing, and the, you know, I've done. You know, I'm still doing therapy for many years. Okay. You know, of life. You know, life is the best teacher, I suppose, of the things. So yeah, I definitely feel more of a present man. I wouldn't say more of a better man. And probably maybe that makes me a better.
More of a confident man.
I don't know, maybe confidence is another consequence, but present or aware, I suppose, to use a term that my therapist always says. You know, he always invited me to be aware of things, you know, because changing things, just don't bother about that, but being aware of things, you know, you can, there's something you don't like for yourself, or of yourself maybe, that you struggle to change, and usually then we walk away from it, or we just try to not think about it, we try to get distracted. But there was always a sense of always feeling as I am the victim, or feeling like, oh, you are bad,
or that control's been taken away from you.
Yes, something,
which is a very male thing.
Something like that. While I think that, for example, for closure, and closure means is referring actually not to one thing in particular, but to several, is referring about, you know, the end of also friendship, you know, the big friendship that ended up some years ago that I really affected me. And, you know, it says, you know, closure says our train was just without bends and without stops. Basically, is a way of saying it's not your fault, it's not been my fault, it's just that the train we were on.
Life is like a train. You're on it, but you're not driving it. You know where it's going.
You know, we enjoyed the ride, and it was okay, and now it is going to be okay anyway.
As a solo artist, essentially, how do you decide when things are finished, or did you just abandon it? All great art is never finished; it's just abandoned. How did you decide that it was finished?
I don't know. I went long time ago away from it must be perfect or stuff. You know, I've done so many that, you know, by now I know that you can decide consciously when something is finished, or you can just go on for another 3 months and change it further. The reality is that for the audience, probably it wouldn't change much anyway. If, you know, the song, you can rearrange it, but whatever, but in the end, it doesn't really matter as long as what you're doing is genuine. Yeah, it's just different shapes of being genuine, basically. So, I don't know, for me it's always like there is something that clicks.
Tell us about the artwork. It's amazing. Louise Pigott, how did that happen? Because there's some work gone into that, and it fits beautifully with the monochrome nature of the music.
Yes.
Who is Louise, and what was the brief given?
I mean, first of all, you know, and she's my partner, and second, she's a quite talented musician on her own. More on folk music, so it's interesting. I think lots of that influence have as well arrived. Yeah. Into that. So and then she's a professional illustrator. Right. So obviously she was listening to the album and stuff and things, and we were working on some things together. And basically I always wanted to have, you know, most of my albums up to now has been photographic, which I always do. Yeah. Because I always like the visual part, but I was thinking I would like to do something else. I love lots of modern music that is more about illustration, more than photography. And so I just told her, what if we just think about something and we work on it together? Let's see what we can do. And, you know, I didn't give her much instructions. We made the cover together, so the concept of the cover came out together. We can do this, we can do that, and then eventually the idea of the reflection and the boy and the man, you know, came out.
There it is.
Going through several iterations.
Brilliantly done.
And then we just started, and then at some point, you know, she knew what were the lyrics and stuff, and, you know, she knew what I like, and so I just let her go. I said, well, you know the lyrics, you know the thing, and then she came back with this board, and literally we used almost all of the artwork, and then there were obviously a few iterations and things, and
It's so clever because it works small and big
yes,
as well. They work as small pieces and they work as bigger pieces. That's so clever. You know a little bit about celestial bodies. Let's see if we can equate this record with the celestial body. If I was to give you £1 billion pounds, right, which celestial body would you perform this album live on?
oh, nice.
A small moon?
Probably, I was probably a moon because it is monochromatic. So I was thinking, even our moon is quite.
Oh right, okay.
It's quite monochromatic.
Just a mere 250,000 miles away.
Yeah, I would say our moon. There is still Earth in view, so it's nice. It's still near the heart.
Okay.
So the Earth, but probably the moon. The moon is quite monochromatic. It's very slow and quiet.
It has its own music. Apparently, I
Well,
understand.
yeah, actually.
At the thrum of the moon.
Yeah.
So therefore, you could do the first gig on the moon.
That would be
And
lovely.
Sam do the first gig on the moon.
We've done the first few gigs, we've done the first gig on the Teide Observatory for the Starmus Festival. We've done the first gig as the temple, the Garni Temple in Armenia. So we've done a few first and only ones. No one has played on the Teide Observatory ever after us. So that is, we can add one on the moon.
There's how would that work? How would it be done if there's zero gravity?
Well, there are
what would happen to the sound?
I don't know. Well, sound obviously doesn't travel without air, so we will need to solve that problem first. I would say, well, actually there are two options.
Yeah.
So you can either do it indoors, so we need to make it nicely indoors. Maybe we discover somewhere where there is water.
Some oxygen, perhaps.
We can do it maybe near the poles where supposedly there is some frozen water.
Oh, right, really?
So maybe we can extract that.
The poles of the moon. There's supposedly.
Supposedly, they
Ice
need to
water.
discover. Basically in the craters where there is never the sun never reaches there.
Oh, right, okay.
There is a hypothesis that there might be frozen water there.
Right, okay.
So we can do that.
Yeah.
That would be nice. And as you know from today, I don't like anyway too much heat, so I would rather be near where there is frozen water.
Yeah. So book your tickets now for Nosound on the Moon. You heard it here first. Shouldn't think it's going to be too cheap though. My huge thanks to Giancarlo for his time. To the Core by Nosound is out now. You heard the title track earlier on in that piece, and I'm going to finish with this, Worn Out Parts. Thanks very much for listening to the Kscope podcast. Do please like and share and comment wherever you find it. Billy Reeves out. Speak to you soon. Ta-ta.
Light collapse, the broken glass, falling skies, a distant past, ice glass, searching for fragments of a fractured fall. Worn out heart. story.